What are those one or two or three or top three options for the first time fund structuring that we are looking at?
I would say it's a rule called the KISS rule, which I was trained when I was a very young attorney. Keep it simple, stupid. That's the KISS rule. And it's true. Most firms that you're building are going to fit a simple paradigm of a structure. The structure chart that you're seeing here is, to me, the elemental and 9 times out of 10 optimal structure. Your question was an interesting one, Rakesh, in terms of let's talk about how to design a first time fund, and then let's talk about how bigger funds, how more institutional funds may be structured differently. And what I would interestingly probably say to that is 9 times out of 10, they're the same. In other words, larger funds don't tend to become more complicated in structure. There may be, and there are deviations from what I just said. If you have a lot of investors coming from Europe and a lot of investors coming from Asia and a lot of different types of investors coming from different global jurisdictions, there may be tax reasons and other reasons why investors would be comfortable with different types of entities to come into. So you may have a Luxembourg entity and an Irish entity and different things for different types of investors. But most of the time, especially unless you're raising like some mega $10 billion private equity fund, if you're raising a $500 million market, lower middle market PE fund or a $200 million venture fund, the structure chart you're looking at is 9 times out of 10, maybe 9.9 times out of 10, going to be the starting point and the correct endpoint. The big picture is the fund starting at the bottom of the page. It's a Delaware limited partnership. Sometimes clients come with preconceived misconceptions, I would say. Well, I'm going to take some money from Europe, so I need an offshore feeder. KISS, keep it simple, keep it simple. 9 times out of 10, that's not necessary. It doesn't give you anything. It doesn't benefit the investors and just adds cost and complexity to the structure. Non-U.S. people can come into a Delaware limited partnership. That's at the bottom. That's the fund. No parallel funds for the most part. Again, we can double click why a parallel fund may be helpful. No feeder funds. We could double click why a feeder fund may be helpful. But 9 times out of 10, it's a single Delaware limited partnership. And now we're thinking, okay, we built the fund design-wise. What about the firm? What about the entities that the founder and his or her partners are going to be forming to manage and own Fund 1 and future funds? And that's where these other three triangles come in that you see here. I call this the diamond structure for obvious
Yeah.
reasons.